Olha, o negócio é o seguinte, dias atrás eu tinha feito um vídeo, assistindo um vídeo do Evil Dia sobre um vídeo do Steve Kaufman falando que input massivo era melhor do que flashcards. Eu assisti esse vídeo, não lembro se foi semana passada. Aí um outro maluco reagiu a esse vídeo do Evil Dia reagindo ao Steve Kaufman. E agora tem um vídeo do Evil Dia reagindo ao cara que reagiu a ele reagindo ao Steve Kaufman. E meu trabalho é reagir a ele reagindo ao cara reagindo a ele reagindo ao Steve Kaufman. Entendeu? Só que, vou mostrar pra vocês esse vídeo. 1 hora. Tem 1 hora. Então, falou muita coisa, hein? Let's go ou let's go?
What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. So
What's
today
up,
we're going to
dude?
be watching a video from Nick from Nicholas Russell Consulting. Do you remember him? We did a react to him once before. Apparently he has dropped a video about me, or at least he's reacting to one of my videos. And the video is titled, No Evil Deer, Comprehensible Input Does Beat Flashcard.
O nome do vídeo do cara. No Evil Dia, Comprehensible Input does beat flashcards. Que o Comprehensible Input vai bater o flashcards. É muito mais efetivo. E aí o nome do título do Evil Dia é No, Nick. Comprehensible Input still, que é ainda, não bate flashcards.
Ooh, it looks like we're about to have some internet beef. Everyone loves some pointless internet beef over pointless
Eu não vou ver 1 hora de vídeo não, mas eu não sei quanto tempo que eu vou ver, mas eu vou ver.
shit like flashcards and comprehensible input, but we're gonna do it. Anyway, so it looks like he's reacting to my video where I reacted to Steve, and Steve, I think he was talking down about flashcards. I can't remember. But I remember in my video, I was basically saying, whoa, hold up, guys. Flashcards are an excellent tool to complement your language learning journey. Of course,
Sim.
you need a lot of comprehensible input, but you want to use flashcards because flashcards, they basically help you prime your brain for the
É isso aí. O flashcards vai ser um auxiliador, é um recurso. Não que ele vai bater sozinho o... Não vai dar sozinho o negócio. Foda-se. É um recurso. Um recurso bem utilizado agrega em outros recursos. E é isso.
structures, the sounds, the words, and then also help you massively with output. So I'm kind of curious to see what he's got to say here because he's talking about comprehensible input still beating flashcards. Poor flashcards. But before we get into this video, I noticed something with your thumbnails, man. What is going on here? Now, I haven't watched these videos. I'm just going to go based on the thumbnails, but we've got I don't believe in dreaming Spanish anymore, and I'm sorry, Pablo. And then if we scroll up, he's like, why comprehensible input doesn't work? And then at the same time, Pablo was right about everything.
Esquizofrenia, né?
What's going? I'm a bit confused. You look a little bit flaky there. You're on and off with Pablo. Poor Pablo, man. He's copping some flack. Okay, let's watch this video together. Boom, this is 16 minutes long. I might speed it up. We shall see.
So around a week or two ago, I saw Steve Kaufman's flashcard video pop up, and then about a week later, I saw Evil Dia's flashcard video responding to Steve's video pop up, and I did not watch either of them, but this topic interested me, so I thought I'd...
What? You did not watch either? Like, you didn't watch either of our videos? Then how are you going to make a response?
O cara não viu nenhum dos dois vídeos e quer responder. Pronto. Ele é... Eu pelo menos vi os dois vídeos, né? Eu vi um, mas nenhum tava o outro inteiro, então...
What? My brain is so blown right now. You haven't watched either of us. I don't understand. Imagine this, like, you got two people that having an argument down there, you know, talking about something. You're like over here with your hands in your ears going, la 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 la. But I have an opinion. Like, it makes no sense. Okay,
O exemplo que ele deu é duas pessoas estão discutindo e aí você, como terceira pessoa, na discussão das pessoas, dos argumentos, você não tá ouvindo. Mas do nada você chega assim, não, eu tenho uma opinião sobre isso, mas você não sabe nem o que é.
I'm sure that... Okay.
pile on. I've only ever watched about 3 to 4 Evil Dia videos. I watched his,
Well, thank you. I managed to worm my way into your brain at least 3 times.
750-hour Dreaming Spanish review, which I thought was good,
Oh,
and
thank you.
I've obviously watched the one about me. I myself am pretty anti-flashcard, but when I quit flashcards early on a long time ago, I really never looked back, so, I thought it was possible there was some argument about flashcards that I was missing, so
Okay, let me just clarify my argument in case you haven't seen that previous video, but editor, please put it up here so those can go watch it if they want. My argument is, and I already stated this, but let me just restate it. If you don't want to use flashcards, that's perfectly fine. However, if you have the tenacity and the willingness to use flashcards, they are an excellent tool to complement you. They can help you with your listening, they can help you with your reading, they can help you with your speaking.
Complemento, é isso a palavra. Ele falou agora, mas eu tava caçando.
It really depends on how you use flashcards and for what purpose you want to use them, okay? And my video was basically, the response was basically to Steve misrepresenting how to use flashcards. And I was saying, okay, maybe that is some old school way of using flashcards, but that is not how I recommend the use of flashcards or those who I see use flashcards within the language space, okay? So I was basically pointing that out, and then I gave a demo of appropriate use and context for flashcards to help you.
So I went into this video open-minded. I'm not gonna go over every argument Steve made or every rebuttal Evil Dia made, and
So you did watch the video. What was that like random thing at the start there where you're like, I didn't watch either video? I'm so confused. It's like, we're like, what,
O que custa o cara assistir o vídeo antes?
45 seconds in and you've already like gone against yourself.
instead, I'm just gonna give my own take based on what's already been said. What
Okay.
surprised me is
Okay.
after
Cool. So I'm gonna forget about all the fact that he hasn't seen my video, but he has seen the video.
I watched Evil Dia's video on flashcards, I kind of ended up being more anti-flashcard as opposed to less.
Okay.
Prólogo, concessões.
Firstly, I want to concede the idea that flashcards can help you. Nowhere in this video am I going to say that flashcards are just useless and don't do anything. Also, I want to concede that input is a bad tool for remembering numbers and dates and other trivial facts. I think that's true. That's a pretty obvious application for flashcards in my opinion. Also, of course, just like Evil Dia and Steve said, if you like to do flashcards, continue to do flashcards. I'm not here to tell you to stop doing flashcards if you like them. You should just do what you like.
Okay, so it seems like so far we're probably 90% in agreement. Okay, cool.
One of Steve's major points in his video is that flashcards lack context, and I 100% agree with that.
So rather than memorizing pairs or rules, you're expanding your sense of the rhythm, the intonation, the range of meaning of words. It's a much more complex, expanding connection with the language, which the sort of isolated retrieval of a flashcard item just doesn't do that. It's much, much more limited.
Evil Dia's response is basically flashcards do have context when used properly.
Okay, isolated from context, no rhythm, intonation, emotion, or grammatical patterns, just a bare pair. No. This is not correct.
We use sentences and not isolated words. We use multiple cards per word to cover different structures and patterns. We can drill structures across many fillers, like if you have a sentence, I'm allergic to X, you can remove the X and replace it with shrimp or turkey or eggs. And if we want other context like intonations, we can use audio.
Yeah, just so you guys know why I was doing that structure. When you swap out just the noun, it teaches your brain that there is a set structure that underlies this entire sentence, and there is a component of the set structure which is swappable. You're essentially creating a chunk that your brain knows how to easily manipulate. And then once you've learnt that chunk, you could combine that with other chunks. And the flashcards, the templates that underline the flashcards basically represent those chunks. And that card that he was showing, I believe was a, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was a production card. So for practicing that chunk.
And I really think there's a category error happening here. I'm not sure how you can really arrive at flashcards give context using the shrimp allergy example. I think Evil Dia is conflating.
Well, okay. You probably picked a terrible example for your video here or your rebuttal. That is not something that needs any specific category. Like, I am allergic to something that, like saying I am allergic to something, it doesn't really need context. it's a set statement. You probably could have used some other flashcards that I had to make your argument, but we shall see.
Context and repetition. Think about what context actually is. Let's say you were watching this video to help you learn English, which some of you actually are. For every word you're hearing, you're getting context at an innumerable amount of layers at the same time. There's the context of my current sentence, obviously. There's the context of the paragraph surrounding my sentence. There's the context of the broader video itself, the video topic. There's the context of me being the speaker. And all of this matters because you know, for instance, I'm speaking American English. You know the level of formality at which I'm speaking. You know I'm a male in his mid-20s, not a woman in her 80s. If you've watched my channel before, you have the context of every single video that you've watched up to this point. You can see my emotional state, for instance. Am I sad? Am I angry? Of course, this is an explainer video, so I'm not super emotional, but you get the idea.
Okay, so I get the context. It's basically the entire history that's related to the words that you're saying at this moment. Okay?
You have so many layers of context, I literally couldn't name them all, and that
Ele tá falando que os contextos também é pela expressão facial, se for um vídeo, né, no caso, pela expressão facial, pela entonação vocal, o contexto da frase.
That's why Steve is saying input is context rich. You know all of these things without anybody explicitly telling you them, and all of these things are affecting what words I use and how I'm phrasing my sentences.
Okay, I do want to talk a little bit about context because I can see the direction that this argument is already going. The direction is that by just doing it via input as opposed to using flashcards, you are constantly getting a refreshed matrix of basically ideas, experiences, all this stuff related to the words they're constantly being reused and constantly showing new ways and new patterns that these structures are being used in. Okay, however, there is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the brain works with this because people always talk about this. They're like more input, more input, more input because you're basically building this rich map in your head, but you're not. What happens with a mass amount of input is that your brain is going to focus in on just a specific little bit here and there.
Aqui ele está falando que as pessoas têm uma ideia errada com o input massivo, porque acha que quanto mais input, mais input, mais input, mais input, você vai expandir o cérebro e vai saber de tudo. Mas não, então vamos ouvir o restante da conclusão.
And everything else is going to black out and completely forget about. Just instantly forget about, okay? And evidence of that is the fact that you could go, there's videos on YouTube, okay, where they're like, hey, I want you to watch this person right in the middle of the room. Watch what they're doing with their hands. And you'll focus on their hands and they'll be like, did you see that? Watch them again with their hands. And you'll watch and they'll like, okay, now I don't want you to watch this person's hands. Just watch what happens in the background. You're like, what do you mean in the background? And there's a guy in a monkey suit going, boop, 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 boop. You never saw the monkey suit dude before. Do you know why? Because your brain picked something to focus in on. So yes, there was a ton of context in that video. There was a person in the monkey suit in the background, someone doing something with their hands or not doing something with their hands, the people in the room, their emotions, their feelings, the time of day, everything was there. But your brain did not pay attention to any of that. It took in this video and filtered out everything except for the one little thing it cared about at that moment. So, yes.
Tá, entendi. Ele fala que o input massivo às vezes é paia por conta que você vai focar. Você tá focando em... Você vai focando em quando tá vindo o contexto, o input, as palavras, você vai focando, você foca na palavra, mas depois imediatamente você já esquece da palavra e nem sabe mais o contexto. Foca, esquece, e aí tem algumas palavras que você vai guardar, mas muita coisa no input massivo que você não vai nem prestar atenção.
Doing just complete input will give you a lot of context, but the vast majority of it will be filtered out and completely forgotten. I've learnt that more and more via my experiences with my Dreaming Spanish series, that realistically, you can only gather so much from input at a time. You just gather a little bit here and there. And realistically, with my Dreaming Spanish series, the thing that's actually gotten me to that like level of what am I right now? Probably a B1 plus like understanding of the language. It's just the amount of hours. Like, I've just done an insane amount of hours at this point, like over 920 something hours. But during that 920 something hours, I guarantee you, like 90% of what I watched probably went in one ear and out the other. Like, my brain did not focus on it.
And all these layers are happening at the same time. Every word I'm saying in this video is landing inside all of them simultaneously.
And like, we're 3 minutes, 36 seconds in. What can I remember from this video? Okay, if I close my eyes now, what do I remember? You presented the fact that you... Okay, so my brain focused in on the fact that you said you haven't watched my video and Steve's video, and that caused me some confusion. And then after that, you said there was a category error, and that's it. Like, I think you're wearing a black suit. I don't know what the background color is. I don't know anything else. Now, so the background's a white wall. I should have known that. And I said a black suit, but you're not wearing a black suit. You're wearing a black shirt. Now, the reason I just did that little exercise right there is because your brain is excellent at filtering out the vast majority of stuff it cannot utilize at that exact moment. And that is the problem with just doing just input without any type of focus study.
That's what context actually is, not just the words around some target word or some words in a sentence around the target word. It's all of this. Every encounter with a word and input is sitting inside a nested stack of context.
Yes and no. It sits inside a stack of context. However, the vast majority of it you will never access, utilize, or acquire in any way.
And this applies whether you're watching videos online, listening to an audiobook, or just talking to a native speaker. It applies to any form of input. When you drill, I'm allergic to X 30 times, none of that exists. There's no speaker, there's no situation, there's no topic content.
And I think you misunderstood, or maybe I did not present this efficiently or well within my video. That seems like a very random thing to have in a flashcard, right? Let me explain. You were looking at the production deck. The production deck is the deck in which I need to practice certain structures to be able to say them. If I think back to Spanish, how many times have I seen someone say I'm allergic to something? I think I might have seen one video once, some ages ago. I don't remember the word for like allergic in Spanish. How many times have I seen it in Chinese? Probably a few more times, but realistically, there has been many instances where I've had to say this structure myself because I am allergic to seafood, okay? So because I have to say this structure a lot, I'm not going to just naturally pick this up from context. I need to be able to practice this structure. And in order to practice it, I need to know how it's formed. And when I add it into my Anki, I don't want to just learn how to say, you know, I'm allergic to seafood. I want to learn the underlying structure because that structure can actually be reutilized in other ways. So the structure comes from an actual place of need, of real world use. And then I expand it in order for me to learn the underlying structure that happens there. That way, when I'm in China, I can just say to someone, 我对海鲜过敏. You know, I am allergic to seafood. It's not just a random structure that I slapped in there for no reason at all. I put it in there so that I can learn to utilize that in conversation as a chunk, as part of a greater part of my language, okay? And I think a lot of people misunderstand when I talk about flashcards. You're not meant to learn the whole language through flashcards. You're meant to learn specific
Ele está falando de chunk, que é uma coisa muito importante. E eu tenho um relato. Quando eu comecei, não os 365 dias que eu estou fazendo agora, né? Até o B1. Mas para ver se eu consigo chegar até o B1 ou um nível um pouco mais próximo. Antes, no começo desse canal, eu fazia os vídeos, eu estudava um pouco antes, aí depois eu fazia de improviso. E teve tempos que eu salvava as minhas frases para fazer. E aí teve uma vez que eu salvei e fui praticando a mesma frase. E, mano, tá na minha cabeça tá na minha cabeça até hoje, mais de, sei lá, 5 meses. I went to go to the gym. I went to go to the gym. I went to the gym. I went to the gym. Now I went to go to the gym. I went to the gym. É tipo assim, eu fui à academia. We went to the gym. Nós fomos à academia. Mas essa chunk de ir à academia ficou na minha cabeça. Então eu acho que é um negócio muito legal você aprender também estruturas por chunk. Eu futuramente eu vou até dar uma revisada e voltar a aprender. Assim que terminar a faculdade eu vou dar uma focada melhor. Mas é uma coisa muito boa. É a repetição. I went to the gym. Eu nem sei se está certa essa frase, só que veio na minha cabeça. I go to the gym. Ah, não era o I went to the gym, não. I go to the gym, que eu falo até no vídeo. I go to the gym with my wife. Com a minha esposa. I go to the gym. I go to the gym. Então, eu decorei essa chunk. Então, eu não vou na academia, eu vou no supermercado. I go to supermarket. I go to mall. I go to school. I go to university. I go to high school. I go to work. I go to work. Entendeu? Chunk é legal. Vamos voltar ao vídeo.
Templates that can be reutilized in various different places, and then the input cements the connections between this. So all the comprehensible input, it cements the connections between all of these chunks and allows and opens up more connections that you were unaware of. It's there to prime your brain. I'll give you another example, okay? So ages ago, I don't have this in my Anki deck anymore, but I put this in there when I was practicing Chinese and I was making videos in Chinese. And I realized I don't know how to say in this video or in, like, I knew how to say it if I stopped, thought about it, and like logically put the grammar together. I realized then, okay, but I could not just naturally produce this in the moment as needed. So in my production deck, which is my practice deck, I added that structure in, but not just that structure. I swapped out the bit where it says in this video with in a previous video, and in the next video, in my previous Chinese video, in this Chinese video, in my next Chinese video, the most likely things that I'm going to say to help teach my brain that there is a structure that happens here and that there is swappable components to this structure. And now, if I need to, I can say, 我在这个视频里讨论这个话题. So I am in this video discussing this topic, okay? That just naturally flowed off my tongue. There's plenty of the language in Chinese which I cannot say easily at this stage because I have not practiced the underlying structures. But that structure that I just utilized, I just said, you know, in this video we're discussing this topic. That's not something I've actually said. Those are two separate chunks. I've never individually practiced that as one thing in Anki. I practice two separate chunks, you know, discussing a topic or discussing X, and in this video about X, okay? Now, because I practice those structures and I've utilized them, I can now just easily shove them together, you know? So I can do the same thing about the Steve Kaufman one, you know? I can say, 在我上一个关于 Steve Kaufman 的视频里, so in my previous video about Steve Kaufman, okay? So there again, there's a structure that I practiced previously.
É isso aí, é a chunk aí, a estrutura que ele aprendeu se entrou com essa estrutura e começa a juntar. Só vai trocando algumas coisas, junta várias estruturas também.
Via Anki, and it's one that I would use quite a bit as a YouTuber. That's the point of Anki, is to, well, that's the point of these kind of flashcards, is to help you with that. Now, I also presented other types of flashcards, so the audio ones, and the audio ones have a completely different purpose to the production ones. Their purpose is to help your brain actually hear really information-dense structures, because there are certain structures in every language which are highly information dense, as you pointed out, numbers being one of them.
Continuity. There's no overarching frame. It's the same structure with different fillers repeated 30 times. That's not stacking layers of context. A better word for that, again, is repetition. There's really no overarching context.
You can call it repetition, you can call it context, but essentially at the end of the day, the purpose here is to get these structures into your brain and able to utilize them. So if this is going to come down to a video about debating semantics, you know, context versus not what is context and what isn't context, well, it has context. You just didn't see the context. The context for me having that flashcard was I've needed to utilize that structure in my real world. Now, to make your argument, there probably would have been better examples you could have taken from my Anki deck, which to the average viewer would have made no sense, but they all have context. It's just I don't need to add that context in because I know where it came from. I created the cards.
Continuity between the two sentences, I'm allergic to shrimp and I'm allergic to eggs. If you were at a restaurant and you heard those two things in succession, there would be overarching continuity. But just having those two sentences beside...
Yeah, but here's the risk, okay? So that is a very, very vital, important structure for my life. It's something that I need to be able to hear, and it's something I need to be able to produce. I can't wait for enough real-life lived experiences to learn that structure the hard way, okay? I don't want to be making that mistake.
At each other, there's no overarching continuity. It seems like Evil Dia thinks Steve's argument hinges on this idea that flashcards are one word per card, but that's just not true.
Well, the reason I thought that is because he actually gave demo of LinkQ, or I think that's how it's pronounced. I keep getting it wrong. And it literally is that. Like, you see the word and then you just see one word. So that's why I base my argument on that. If Steve actually is not of that belief, then I take it back, okay? If his belief is that you should be using entire structures and stuff, then I'm, okay, cool. I follow. I vibe with that.
Steve's structural argument does not depend on flashcards being one word per card. It depends on flashcards being discrete and context isolated, which is true of any flashcard system, no matter how sophisticated. The underlying theory behind Steve's argument, as he explicitly states, is that language is understood as a network of experiences in your head, as opposed to discrete phrases and words.
Okay. I can agree with that. Yes, language is a very, very large network of experiencing words, the connections between them. However, I don't know if we're debating this topic or not. Realistically, it does not matter, because the point of a flashcard is to prime your brain for certain types of structures, words, and experiences, so that you don't have to wait for them to slowly, over time, enter your brain, and to allow you, once you've primed it, to then hear it more easily. It's basically just greasing the wheels.
And I want to break into that more because, in my opinion, I think this is the crux of the category error that Evil Dia is making. To explain that further, I have to expand Steve's metaphor, so I'm going to talk about what Steve actually means when he talks about networks in the brain. To me...
Okay, so you're going to talk on behalf of Steve. Be careful doing that for other YouTubers.
The best way to visually demonstrate this is to get deeper into the math metaphor, because when we're talking about networks, at the end of the day, we're talking about graph theory. Flashcards treat words, phrases, and sentences like they're discrete nodes in a language.
Eu vou terminar o vídeo aqui, vou continuar vendo, só que eu não quero postar vídeo muito mais longo, não. Já tá com 26 minutos, e é isso. Vocês sabem que eu só posto isso pra provar que eu estudei, né? Porque eu estudo aqui, ó, estudo todinho, ó, essa semana, não sei se tá dando pra enxergar, eu vou enxergar, ó, eu anoto, mas eu faço aqui pra vocês verem que eu estudei mesmo, todo dia, que vai ter um vídeo todo dia até o final do ano. Até os 365 dias. Eu tô cansado de fazer? Tô no 121 dias, já cansei. Mas vai passar do meu jeito e é isso, fé. Let's go, eu quero ver como que nós vamos ficar no inglês, vai. Inglês é sacanagem. Mas eu falo isso aqui brincando, tá? Eu sei que English, ou inglês em português. Mas eu falo assim para ficar mais... Você entendeu?